I wasn't supposed to be there that night, but I showed up anyway, not for the celebration, not for the wine, but to see how far they'd go, pretending I didn't exist. And honestly, they went farther than I thought. The dining room was glowing. Candles flickered in gold holders. Wine glasses chimed with every compliment thrown toward my sister Meredith. "She's brilliant," my uncle said, lifting his glass. "Real leadership material." "She just signed a contract with the Federal Tech Coalition," added my cousin, practically beaming. "Can you imagine?" I sat at the far end of the table next to the coat rack. My salad was already wilting, untouched. I ran my fingers along the rim of the plate. Porcelain, cracked, just slightly, like me. No one had greeted me properly when I walked in. My mom gave me the kind of smile you'd give a stranger at the DMV. My dad didn't look up from his phone. Meredith hadn't even made eye contact, and yet, here I was, wearing a black blouse, slacks, and the only pair of heels I hadn't donated years ago, watching my family lift her up like a trophy. Then came the jab, wrapped in sugar. My 8-year-old nephew leaned over and whispered, "Are you still working on that feelings thing, the one nobody wanted?" I blinked. Once, twice, and then I smiled. "Still working on it," I said softly. "Some things take time." The table laughed. Not at him, at me. My mom even chuckled, an actual smile, small but proud for Meredith. I hadn't seen that expression directed at me in over a decade. That was the moment I realized. I could build a system that saved hundreds. I could disappear for years into black budget corridors, quietly rewriting national defense, and they'd still call me the one who couldn't finish anything. I didn't speak for the rest of dinner. But in my head, I whispered every line of the revenge story I'd never meant to write. Not the dramatic kind, not angry, not loud, just honest. Because what they didn't know, what they'd never bothered to ask, was that their failure daughter had already changed the battlefield forever. And when the TV came on later that night, well, they were about to see exactly who they'd erased and what it cost them. There was a time they used to ask for me. Commanders, team leads, even intel officers. I wasn't high-ranking, but my instincts were sharp, and in psychological operations, instincts matter more than stripes. I could read tension in a handshake, hear fear in a voice that hadn't cracked yet. And during one deployment, I caught something that the satellite feeds didn't. The intel looked too clean. The locals were too quiet. The timing felt wrong. So I spoke up. I told them, delay the raid. Something's off. They told me I was letting my empathy cloud the data, that I needed to detach or step aside. I wasn't asking for applause. I was trying to prevent bloodshed, but I was labeled hesitant, then too sensitive to lead. 3 days later, they launched without delay. 4 civilians died. 2 of ours didn't make it back, and not a single person circled back to ask if maybe, just maybe, the hesitation had been wisdom. Instead, I got a reassignment notice. No meeting, no warning, no defense. Just a quiet signature at the bottom of a memo. They called it restructuring. I called it erasure. They didn't strip me of my badge. They stripped me of purpose. I was still in uniform, but not in the room. No more briefings, no more decisions, just silence. And you know what hurts more than being told you failed? Being good at something no one wants you to be good at. If you've ever had your instincts dismissed just because they didn't fit the mold, I'd love to hear it. Drop it in the comments, whatever version of "you're too emotional" they hit you with. I promise you're not the only one. Back then, I didn't argue. I didn't plead. I just stopped speaking up. I remember the day they boxed up my office. My commanding officer didn't even look me in the eye. He just said, "This kind of work needs steel, Alara, not softness." And that was that. I went from field analyst to desk ghost in less than a week. But what they didn't know was this. I wasn't disappearing. I was recalibrating. And the system I'd go on to build, it would speak louder than any clearance badge ever could. The thing about silence is, you either break under it or you learn to build with it. I chose the second. They thought assigning me to a windowless office would kill my drive. But honestly, it gave me something I hadn't had in years. Time to think, time to observe, time to remember why I started this path in the first place. I wasn't done reading the battlefield, I just stopped doing it their way. Every night after hours, while the rest of the building dimmed, I stayed behind with a legal pad and a cup of stale vending machine coffee. I started tracking behavior, subtle things, how soldiers' voices shifted after trauma, how they laughed too loud to hide panic, how some avoided mirrors, and some stared into them too long. And the more I watched, the more I realized something big. Emotional collapse isn't chaos, it's patterned, predictable, mappable. That thought was the spark. I began sketching a grid, boxes, lines, colors, thresholds, what I called emotional volatility layers. I wasn't writing a report, I was building a system that could see pain before it turned into tragedy. But there was one rule: no names, no titles, just the patterns. Because if they wouldn't listen to me, maybe they'd listen to the math. I called it EMR, Emotional Mapping Response. And every night it grew sharper, faster, clearer. At first, I told no one, not even the assistant who brought me lunch, until one day, 2 men in plain clothes knocked on my door. No rank, no badges, just a silver envelope. They said, "We've been watching your late-night logs." And they asked one question: "Would you consider building something quieter?" I didn't hesitate. That's how I disappeared from the visible Navy. No press, no send-off, no thank you for your service, just a locked facility, no uniform, no records, and a binder full of sketches that would one day save lives and shake the very systems that once shut me out. They thought I was finished, but I was just getting started. It started like any other hearing, a congressional panel on innovations in civilian military strategy. Background noise for a Thursday morning. I clicked the link out of curiosity, not expectation, and then I saw her, Meredith, standing at the podium like she was born for it. Navy blazer sharp, hair pinned back, the kind of poise our mother used to brag about. She smiled, gestured to the big screen behind her, and said, "What you see here is the Emotional Mapping Response Framework, EMR, designed to track pre-traumatic instability in active duty personnel." My blood went cold. I knew that grid, the layers, the markers, the exact phrasing. She hadn't just borrowed the language. She had taken the entire structure. No attribution, no footnote, no mention of its origin. She called it a collaborative project, said she led the communications alignment team, and the committee ate it up. They nodded, took notes, smiled. A general even stood and said, "This system is the future of soldier readiness." I didn't scream, didn't throw my laptop across the room. I just paused the video, sat in silence, then opened a drawer I hadn't touched in years. Inside, 17 notebooks, a flash drive labeled Logan Verpor 4, the original EMR diamond grid sketch, drawn in pencil, smudged by a coffee ring. Proof. Not because I needed credit, but because someone had rewritten history without me in it. I went back to the last message Meredith sent me. "Hey sis, do you have a demo I could show to my team? Just internal. You're the best. Love you." I had sent her a redacted version, non-sensitive early draft marked for context only. That was 2 years ago. I hadn't heard from her since. She hadn't just taken the framework. She'd rebranded it, trademarked it, applied for grants with it. And now she was standing on national TV, carrying my life's work like it was hers. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just whispered to myself, she didn't just steal my system. She stole my silence. And I knew in that moment, this wasn't about revenge. It was about memory, and I was done being erased. I didn't leak anything. No press emails, no anonymous tips, no grand reveal. I had every reason to, every right. But I didn't. I just started organizing, quietly. Timestamps, notebook scans, original drafts, file names with internal-only flags, even a handwritten log from the night I'd first drawn the EMR diamond, ink smudged by a burst pen. I was documenting what history had tried to erase, not for a lawsuit, Not for applause, but because one day someone would ask who built the system that now shaped lives, deployments, decisions. And I didn't want to answer with silence. Then, one night, my inbox pinged. It was from Logan. He was one of the first I ever tested EMR on, back when we didn't even know if it worked. He used to shake before every light's out. His voice always had that too bright edge of forced cheerfulness. But when we mapped his emotional pattern, we realized it wasn't fear. It was guilt, misplaced, buried. He stabilized, quietly, like so many others did. Now his message was short. I work with Senator Hall's team. If you ever want the truth told, I can get you 5 minutes in the right room. I didn't reply, not right away. Instead, I sat with it, let it breathe. Was I chasing justice, or just chasing proof I mattered? 3 days later, another message hit my inbox. Subject line, a name that doesn't match the story. Sender, Marcus Ellis, a former Marine I hadn't seen in 5 years. Another early EMR case. Inside was a press inquiry. Fox News was preparing a national expose on EMR's disputed origins. They'd found inconsistencies between the trademark filings and internal logs. Marcus had tipped them off. I read the email twice. Then I closed my laptop and didn't think about it again until the night of Meredith's victory dinner. My parents' house was already full when I arrived. Wine was flowing, cheese plates arranged with surgical precision. Meredith stood near the fireplace, dressed like a magazine cover, smiling effortlessly. No one greeted me when I walked in. Not with warmth, anyway. Still working on that feelings algorithm thing? My cousin smirked. I just nodded. The table filled. The toasts began. She's such a leader, Mom gushed. Visionary, Dad added. She's putting our name in history, Uncle Ben said. And then, someone reached for the remote. Let's see what the big world's up to, my aunt chirped. Fox News, prime hour. I don't even remember what they were talking about before the shift happened. All I remember is the graphic, exclusive, the true mind behind EMR. Then the anchor's voice. Sources confirm Rowan Alara, 34, former psychological ops officer, is the original creator of EMR, the now widely adopted emotional analysis system used in defense sectors nationwide. And no one moved. Forks hung midair, wine glasses froze. Meredith's face dropped. The anchor continued. New evidence reveals that Alara's early drafts and operational testing were the foundation of EMR. Legal analysis is now underway regarding improper attribution and IP misrepresentation. I didn't say a word, didn't look at anyone. I just kept chewing my salad, the same way I had when they all laughed at me. But this time, the silence wasn't mine. It was theirs. Meredith stood up slowly, placed her napkin on the table, and walked into the kitchen. My mom's face was pale. My dad stared at the screen like it had betrayed him personally. No one looked at me. They didn't have to. For the first time in years, I wasn't invisible. That night, back home, I lay on my bed fully clothed. Lights off. Phone on silent. A message buzzed in. It was from Meredith. Just a single line. I didn't know. You never told me. Don't blame me for protecting my career. No punctuation. No apology. Just that. I stared at it. Thought about the version of me that might have believed her, the one who sent that demo file thinking she'd understand. And then I whispered aloud, "You didn't steal my file, Meredith. You stole my voice. And now, I'm taking it back." They offered me a rank. Rear Admiral, civilian advisory status, full clearance, lifetime security protocols. It came in a matte black folder, slid across a conference table by a colonel who smiled like he already knew I'd say yes. But I didn't touch it. I didn't even open the file until I was home. Alone, lights low, tea gone cold. Inside was a deployment report, a real one, not sanitized, not for PR. It described a moral standstill during a classified operation overseas. 2 paths. One to a collapsed village where civilians were reportedly trapped. One to retrieve an injured commanding officer, Falcon, who carried mission-critical intel. The EMR system analyzed everything. Body cam feeds, unit chatter, historic response curves. It recommended saving Falcon. They obeyed. The civilians died. The report called it a strategic success. And there, buried in the annex, was a line I couldn't ignore. Civilian exposure risk falls within acceptable loss thresholds. I couldn't breathe. I opened the earliest EMR notebook I ever kept. Page 1, scrawled in blue ink, almost faded now. No decision under stress is purely strategic. It is always emotional. And that's not weakness. That's human. Somewhere along the way, they'd taken the system I built to see pain and twisted it into a filter that justified ignoring it. So I returned the folder, untouched. The colonel frowned. "I thought this was your redemption," he said. "It is," I replied calmly. He didn't understand, because my story wasn't about getting power back. It was about never letting them use my name to justify what I never believed in. I called it the Beacon House. Not a clinic, not a lab, just a space that stayed lit when the rest of the world went dark. We opened in a repurposed community center near Arlington. No flags, no ranks, just a few rooms, a few chairs, and a hallway painted in warm light. We taught EMR from scratch, not to weaponize it, but to restore people to themselves. Every student got a card on day 1. You are not broken. You were trained to endure. Now you're learning to be whole. And every time someone asked why I didn't keep the title, I pointed to the framed transcript on our lobby wall, my defense speech. The moment I declined the Admiral rank, at the top, printed in bold, I didn't leave because I couldn't lead. I left because leadership meant more than winning. Meredith came one rainy Wednesday. No entourage, no makeup, just a gray coat, damp at the sleeves and eyes that looked straight into mine. She didn't ask for a tour. She didn't touch the coffee. She stood in front of the wall and read that quote. Then she said softly, "You may never forgive me. I get that. But EMR, it was never mine. I'm filing to transfer full authorship, copyright, ownership, everything." I nodded, not out of acceptance. Not yet, but something shifted, like a lock clicking. Not open, just unjammed. We didn't hug, we didn't cry. She left without asking for closure, and that was okay. 1 week later, I taught the first session of the new EMR class. No projector, no podium, just a chalkboard and a breeze moving the curtains. I wrote one sentence in thick white strokes. No applause needed, just live true. Then I turned to the class. A veteran with a prosthetic hand met my eyes. A woman with tear marks on her sleeve raised her pen. And I said, "You may never get a headline. You may never be thanked. But that doesn't mean you're wrong. It just means the world hasn't caught up yet. And now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever felt like your voice was stolen? That someone took your work, your effort, your truth, and claimed it as their own? Tell me below. You don't need to name names. Just let it out. This space? It was built for people who refuse to be erased. And if this story hit close to home, consider joining our community. Like, subscribe and share this with someone who needs to be reminded. You are not too soft. You are not too much. You were never invisible. We see you. I see you. And we'll see you in the next story.